Beginning on September 13th, Sports for America debuts an NFL pregame show called NFL for Sunday. Tune in to NFL Sunday with the latest news around the National Football League, fantasy football, and odds. NFL for Sunday, premiering Sunday, September 13th on Sports for America Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Shawn Stewart podcast. I am your host, Shawn Stewart, alongside with my co-host, Scotty William. This is our first podcast since I believe it was before all the coronavirus stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
Exactly. So it's been a while. So since this coronavirus stuff, we still have been in contact. So it's not like we're done or nothing like that. So since sports is back open without no fans, I was like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about some sports. So I'm glad to be back on the air.
You and me both, buddy.
Exactly. And I just want to share some updates with you guys before we even get started. So the Shawn Stewart podcast is now available. Is now available on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and please make sure you like the Shawn Stewart podcast on Facebook. So that would be greatly appreciated. And I do have a weekly newsletter on sportsforamerica.com, so you'll see that in the top right of the quarter, and it'll say like the specific date from right now to like this Saturday. So you'll be able to see like what newsletter on that date were originally for. All right. So let us get started with the topic. All right. So I'm gonna start with the New York Jets because the Jets did make a trade. And they trade Jamal Adams for Bradley McDowell, 2 first-round picks for 2021 and then for 2022. And then they have another one on the third-round pick. So for next year, it'll be like a first round and a third round. And then Seattle, they'll get like Jamal Adams, who did not like the New York Jets. Was no surprise because it's a dysfunctional franchise, and the Seahawks will get a 2022 pick. So when I look at this trade between these two, I actually like this pick, especially for Seattle, because even though I like the 49ers will win the West, I still believe that Jamal Adams can help the Seahawks defense. And I still say this to this day, like I can see Seattle and 49ers can probably be like really close in terms of winning the division. And then when you look at the New York Jets, I know you do have a quarterback, you have a coach who's not really that bad of a coach, and you have a GM. So I feel like both of these teams win this trade.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, for Seattle, I think it's a good matchup fit for them when they go up against the 49ers. With having a Jamal Adams to kind of maybe go up against the George Kittle, and I think that actually solidifies their secondary. I mean, if you ask me, I think he's a young kid. He's probably going to be around a while, and even there's even rumor that Jadeveon Clowney could sign back with them. So if that's the case, I mean, you hate to say it, but I mean, defensive wise, they got to be contenders for that West division for sure.
Now, if you look at Jamal Adams, so not only he can play safety, he can also play linebacker. He can play like cornerback, outside cornerback, and inside linebacker, which I hardly ever see. But most of the time he plays safety and offensive linebacker. So it's not decision, he could play like multiple positions.
Yeah, and that just gives to me I've always thought, as much as they've had Russell Wilson and different things like that, I feel as if they've, to me, Seattle's always been kind of more a defensive kind of team, and this just plays more into their hands of getting back to that Legion of Boom.
Now, if you look at that trade, so this is not like the first time a team has done that. A team that traded 2 first-round picks. So, like, if you remember the Chicago Bears, they traded like their 2 first-rounders for Khalil Mack, and then the Texans, they traded away their 2 first-round picks for Larry Tunsil and Kenny Stills, and then of course the Rams, they traded their 2 first-round picks to the Jags for Jalen Ramsey. So this is kind of like a trend you're seeing right now in the NFL. And of course, I forgot to mention that Jamal Adams, he's still under his rookie contract. So, as I was saying before, just now, that you're seeing right now in the trend in the NFL, like you're seeing teams right now that trading 2 first round picks. Hello? Oh, hold on. Oh shoot. So, okay, let's continue. Okay, so like when you're seeing right now, it's like a trend right now because if you remember, like Chicago, they traded away their 2 first-rounders for Khalil Mack. Then the Texans, they did that. They traded away their 2 first-rounders for Larry Tunsil and Kenny Stills. And then the Rams, they traded away their 2 first-rounders to the Jags for cornerbacker Jalen Ramsey. So right now, you're seeing in the NFL, it's kind of like a trend where teams are trading away their 2 first-rounders.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, it's so much for the in regards to the draft picks. I think it was a wise move. I don't know offensively or even defensively if there's anybody to that caliber of Jamal Adams coming out in the next couple of years. So, I think this is that was that draft pick that they gave up for Jamal Adams. I think it was well worth it for Seattle, and then it helps. It should help out the Jets too if they make the right decisions in the draft.
And I was gonna get ready to that. And I noticed about the NFL because, like in the NFL, like when it comes to trading, you kind of figure like, okay, like this, if they have a big contract or if they don't like this certain team because they're not doing so well or dysfunctional franchise, you quite understand that. But like other leagues, when they trade away like their best player, people will go like, oh my goodness, why do they do that? So like in the NFL, you kind of like understand where they come from because like us fans, we already know like, okay, they're gonna trade away their best player, especially from a bad franchise. So I understand where the Jets come from, and then I look at the Jets. When you look at the history of their picks, most of the time they pick people that we never even thought of even selecting. So they have a history of selecting bad players. So they do have a GM, by the way, who was with the Ravens. He actually won 2 with the Ravens, and then he won 1 with the Eagles as a vice president of player personnel when he was with the Eagles. That's Joe Douglas. So hopefully by the time the upcoming draft, he can break that Jets curse when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then the aspect for the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, I think it's kind of a win now. They're in like a win now mode because, I mean, Russell Wilson isn't, exactly the youngest quarterback in the league, and he's kind of getting up there. And I think they need to make that move to get somebody to solidify that secondary. But actually, I think it's when you talk about trades, to me, I think the most lopsided trade that I've seen, and that kind of happened before all this kind of COVID kind of hit, was DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson. I mean, that was just a mind bender there for myself.
Now, as I look in that division, because I had to take the division very carefully, like I can see Arizona right now as like the 3rd best team in the NFC West behind 49ers and Seattle. And when you look at the Rams, because the Rams went from being contenders to now being like out of their like they're not even in contention no more. Because when I look at their Rams offense, because like when Todd Gurley was with the Rams, it seems like he was like the it factor for that Rams offense. And then when Todd Gurley was unhealthy, and now that they trade away with him, it seems like this Rams offense is not the same anymore. So I feel like this Rams team offense is going to struggle, and I more likely concede that the Rams more likely will not make it to the playoffs this season unless there is a star who can rejuvenate that Rams offense. Because something with the Rams, it got to change.
Oh, I agree with you. But you know what, though? I mean, I've never understood a lot of their moves, too. I mean, from a franchise standpoint, you almost can't blame the Rams for trading away Gurley to Atlanta. I think that's a great fit for Atlanta. But, for the Rams, they still have some good young pieces there with Cooper Kupp and I think golf can be good. I'm not even like really totally when you think about it, I'm not even really like disappointed in the run game for them this year because I think with the guy they got last year in backed up Gurley, I think he could as a rookie I think he just didn't have his shot to shine, and I think this could be the year he steps up. But a lot of guys have left there, so I can't see them being. I wouldn't consider them being a playoff team by no means, but there's just a lot around the whole league. You just shake your head at a lot of different things that have happened.
Right. Now, I'm not saying like they're going to be like the worst team in the NFL. I'm just saying like they could be like the worst team in that division because like when you look at like those three teams in the West, like the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals, they have really upgraded. And then in the offseason, I haven't seen the Rams haven't made any splashes so far.
Yeah, and I'm actually interested to see just how the Cardinals will fare this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the league, and I think that was a great pickup for them. And then them also having Larry Fitzgerald, so it kind of takes the heat off of Larry Fitzgerald too. And, and they got some young wide receivers in that group too. But I just don't know if Kyler Murray's going to be that down the field throw kind of quarterback that like he would have seen like if he was to have went to San Francisco or even to the Eagles or something like that, where you got a guy that'll throw the ball downfield. Kyler Murray kind of to me is kind of a Cam Newton-ish type of quarterback. So I mean, You've seen it with Cam Newton, basically getting a second shot there with the Patriots, and we'll see how that goes. But I just don't know how good that would be for the Cardinals in regards to in the long run. I mean, they went and grabbed Kyler Murray, and then now all of a sudden, you go and get DeAndre Hopkins, which is great. I mean, for a player standpoint, I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, there's a lot of weapons, especially for Kyler Murray to throw to now. But where is that going to do you? Is this going to be a good fit? That should be the big question for Arizona.
Exactly. So I can't wait. I can see like once again like that. I can see like right now between the NFC West and the South, I can see two of those divisions could be like one of those top two divisions can be contenders because right now, of course, we were talking about the NFC West, but like when you look at the South now, you have Matt Ryan, of course, of Atlanta. You got Tom Brady right now. He's with Tampa Bay, and then of course Drew Brees, and then Terry Bridgewater with the Carolina Panthers. So four of those teams you can see right now in the South is competitive, but I still believe, even though Tom Brady's with the Buccaneers, I still believe that the Saints are an edge better than the Buccaneers.
Well, see, I I'm going to disagree with you on that, and I'm going to tell you why. I honestly think Tampa's got a more rounded out team now, and I don't think Brady has to be the focal point of that offense. I just think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a game manager, so to speak. I don't think you're going to see the big games as you've seen with when he was with the Patriots. And I just think now with Gronkowski and that run game kind of dialed up a little bit last year with Ronald Jones. I don't know, man. I'm kind of giving them the edge in that division, just because I think they got a better game manager and a guy that if he had to take over, he can. I mean, we've seen it with not a whole lot of talent with the New England Patriots. So I'll be honest with you, I kind of like a Tampa better than the Saints there.
Because as a matter of fact, they do play each other on week 1. That's going to be like a late game. So that everybody's going to see like from there who's going to be the better team in that division. Then they won't play each other again till week 9. That will be like a Sunday night game. So like week 1 that'll be on the Fox, and then week 9 that'll be like on NBC Sunday Night Football. Of course, week 7 that's like the flex schedule. So more likely they're not going to do that. Change the game. I can't see that.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, with the way things are rolling now, what you're seeing with the MLB, I honestly hope that we actually even get to week 9 in the NFL season. It's just one of those unprecedented times right now, and we were not to switch the subject, but you see just how much it's kind of taking a toll on now with the MLB, with like 41% of the Marlins starting lineup or team has that COVID. So, what happens if an outbreak like that happens with the with football? I mean, that could be completely a game changer, especially with a thing that's more of a contact sport.
Now, when I look at this stuff, because I heard about the Marlins when I was waking up, now I see why like leagues like MLB, NFL. Of course, NFL, they did cancel their preseason, so their roster expanded. So you're seeing like leagues like the NFL, the NBA, and baseball, they expanded their roster. So like, hey, if somebody got tested for coronavirus, we could have somebody stepping in. So I feel like the MLB, they already knew what the consequences was, like if somebody were to get a COVID-19. So let's just see like if it keeps on rolling, and see like if they're gonna really like, okay, if this keep on going like this, we're gonna have to make some changes.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's nice to see Major League Baseball back, or any kind of live sport back. I'll tell you, I've been listening to a lot of games on the Sirius XM with me having the MLB package, so I get to listen to a lot of games. But even just to see like baseball again on TV, even though there's no crowd, I mean it's nice to see. But you worry about a lot of these players, and there's some players that opted out not to play this year, and it makes you wonder, if God forbid if anything gets worse or anything that happens in the next few months with this COVID, how many players might opt out of the NFL season.
And as a matter of fact, when you speak about the Tigers, I did went to the Tigers home opener, like a little party. It was at Tin Roof in downtown Detroit. So I was able to take a picture of the Comerica Park, even though there weren't any fans. So it's kind of like, and I said this before and I'll say it again, when you go to a sporting event, you feel like it's actually there, but then when you watch it on TV, it's kind of like you're not in the game. It's just like you're sitting at home without the fans. You know what I mean? So
yep, I hear you.
You see.
I mean, it's nice. It's kind of nice that they, especially from a broadcaster standpoint, play-by-play on the radio, them piping in the crowd noise does kind of make it feel like there is people there at the stadium more than obviously if you're watching the game.
Exactly. So I figure like since there's no fans, they're gonna have like an artificial crowd because you know like when you listen to a game on the radio, you do want to hear the crowd. That's just part of sports. You want to hear the crowd reaction.
Right.
Exactly. So once again, you were saying like you have the Buccaneers winning that NFC South, and I said the Saints gonna win that division. So it's gonna be really testy to see like which team is better. But the one I keep saying about Atlanta. Atlanta's like one of the most weirdest teams I ever seen in that division. Like you have Matt Ryan, you have Julio Jones in that offense, and then all of a sudden they can't even go further. Like they can't even go to the playoffs. And then I know we was mentioned about Dirk Cotter. Like I don't know what Dirk Cotter's even doing with that offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely changed things around, and to me, I don't feel it's been for the best. But and if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe Devonta Freeman is with them anymore. I'd have to check. It's been a minute since I've been able to look into. Yeah, because and if that's the case, then are they going to go with a guy like Gurley and depend on him in the backfield? I mean, I figured. That was kind of shocking to me if they did give. I was under the assumption that they weren't going to resign him. So if that's the case, boy, I mean, here's a guy with the arthritic knees and different things like that, and when healthy is a top-notch back for sure. But I would have thought that they would have maybe kept him and may have had a 1-2 punch with Devonta Freeman. So. I'll tell you that could do a lot of things too. But they're one of those teams where you're like, why aren't they winning ball games? I mean, especially with the talent that they have with Ridley and Jones and now I think they got rid of Austin Hooper. So where did he end up, Shawn? Am I thinking correctly that he left to go somewhere east?
I am looking at the said Austin Hooper. Now you were saying about Devontae Freeman. He is a free agent.
He's a free agent, so he could sign back with them. I mean, obviously, with the COVID thing, it's probably it's changed. People are kind of waiting to see what the whole scoop is. I think he's a guy definitely that'll have a job somewhere this year. I think he would be better off staying with the Falcons if they want him. I think that's a good fit for him.
And Austin Hooper is with the Cleveland Browns, a rejuvenated Browns offense.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's another team I want to see. Like, I don't feel like the Browns are going to make it to the playoffs, but I want to see like how their offense is first because I feel like Freddie Kitchens wasn't the right coach for that franchise. I actually feel bad for him because of Baker's personality, because I remember he's saying we're going to make it to the Super Bowl and all this other stuff. I was like, hey, wait, this is your second season. So hopefully by the season starts, he can actually be better than he was in the second season, because the second season, he really took a hit.
Yeah, but there's a team with a lot of talent, and I think, to me, they were the most underachieving team in the aspect of, for me, I think in the whole NFL last year with all the talent that they have. And like I said, I mean, maybe they needed a head coach change, and I guess we'll see how everything will work out with them. I mean, I think I honestly just don't feel that they really how do you put it? They really that offense really suited Baker Mayfield, going to his strengths, and it's kind of a shame because you got Odell Beckham and things like that, and even they got a good run game now. So there's a lot to. I think there's high expectations for the Browns this year, but they're kind of like the Lions. Just when you think they're getting there or getting to that point, it just ends up being something totally different.
And even though they still have a different ownership change, I don't see this Lions team really progressing. But then, of course, you got people from New England. I don't know. I don't know what to say with this Lions team. It seems like this franchise is like just flat on their face.
Yeah, I mean that is totally true. I mean, you summed it up perfectly. I mean, and this is stuff, we've been battling since, since I've been able to recognize, hey, that's football, that's the Lions. It's always been some kind of, letdown. And to be honest with you, I mean, the Lions haven't been exciting since Barry Sanders retired. So, I mean, that's 20-some years now.
And then also to mention, like, that should also teach you about Bill Belichick tree. Like, most of it is not that good. So I feel like if the Lions do want to make a change, the Lions going to have to operate as a football franchise rather than a Ford dealership and get somebody that can really, like, change the culture.
I agree with you.
I mean, that's the only way. You want somebody that knows, like, more football, like, outside of an organization and has experience of winning. So that's the problem with the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they've done it year after year, and even when I went to go get Mariucci, I thought that was a good deal, but I think the whole Matt Millen thing is what soured that whole timeline of coaches. And, the worst part about it is the best coach we've had here in Detroit, you have to go and look back to Wayne Fonz. And that's not saying much.
Right. At least with Wayne Fonz, they did make to the playoffs consistently in the 90s.
Yeah. But it goes back to the run game, though. If you want to talk about the Lions, I know probably nobody listening to this podcast wants to talk about the Lions. But I think they went I think this draft was pretty solid in my viewpoint. I don't think they went and grabbed anybody, in my opinion, that was way off base of what they needed, which was kind of exciting to see. But I think, Swift can be a good running back for them. And if he's there with, Keyshawn, or Kerryon Johnson, I think that could be a good 1-2 punch there too. So, who knows? I mean, I heard people talking, maybe Marvin Jones might be a guy that if they start off slow that they could probably trade. Marvin Jones is, to me, he's been solid. I really wish they would get Kenny Golladay. He kind of reminds me of the way they work with him is the same way they did with Johnson. I mean, because as in a fantasy standpoint, Calvin Johnson could go off for 70 points one week, and the next week he catches one ball. You'd like to see more consistency there, but it is what it is when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, I like to see how everything's going to play out. I think, even with college football, I know we haven't gotten into that yet, but,
we'll talk about that.
We may not even see that, this year. So we'll, and what would it look like if they ended up playing in the spring? So.
Oh, my goodness. But at least the Lions did make one good pick, and that was Jeff Okudah, because I remember during draft season because I heard rumors they were going to pick a quarterback, but they end up getting a cornerback. So it really told me when they got Jeff Okudah that they're going to still stick with Matt Stafford. So I like I said, I really don't know how the Lions are going to do it with Matt Stafford, because I feel like Matt Stafford's talent as Detroit has been wasted.
I totally agree with you on that, because I feel like, with the back injuries that Matt Stafford has suffered over the course of the last few years, and then you find out after. You hope it doesn't become something like a Tony Romo, where, he might have to, call it quits early, and then they're left standing there. But, it's one of those things, like I said, I honestly don't go into the season with any expectations for the Lions. But, I like Matt Stafford. I think he's a good quarterback. I personally do. Now, a lot of people would probably want to burn me at the stake for saying that, but I feel like, he can put up. I totally forgot where I was talking. I don't know when we got disconnected at. What was the last thing I said?
You were saying like Matt Stafford's a good quarterback, and people will probably criticize you in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I think people, I just feel that way. I mean, when I talk about Matt Stafford to, friends and family, around, when it comes to football, it's like they look at me like I'm crazy, but I feel like here's a guy that can put up numbers, but I just don't feel like he has had, think about this. Can you imagine like a Matt Stafford if he had a back like Zeke Elliott or a Saquon Barkley?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. I just think that could just be an amazing thing, it's always something that I wanted to see, and I'm hoping that Swift and Kerryon can put things together and open up that run game for them this year. But like I said, going into any year, I don't really have too high of expectations for the Lions, unfortunately. But you still want to, as a hometown guy, you still want to see them win.
Exactly. Now we can go to college football, because that's the one I'm really, really hyped up for, because I feel like, of course, the NFL, they're going to have a season, because like there's no way they're going to cancel the season. But the one I want to see is college football, because the Ivy League, for those of you that don't know, the Ivy League is not going to have a fall sports. Okay, so Michigan won't be playing until the 26th. So like the Big Ten and the Pac-12, they'll have like a conference only game. So like for Michigan, they won't be playing until like the September 25th. So that will be like a home opener. And then the last game, of course, will be on the 28th, or to call it the game. And then Michigan State, they won't be playing until, let me see, they won't be playing September the 5th. So you're kind of see like one team, they're going to play early, one team going to play in the middle, and then one team is going to be like late. So I'm looking for this Wolverines team, but I really don't feel confident right now. And it's funny how I say it, because, we got Jim Harbaugh, but it just seems like when we play against Ohio State, we always get outplayed. You know what I mean? And we haven't had like a quarterback like that's like a really rookie, because we have been getting like some transfer quarterbacks. So I just don't see another one of these Michigan teams that could beat like Ohio State. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of hype since Jim Harbaugh has been here. I would still like to see them put some things together and be dominant. But like you said, I mean, since he's been here, it's pretty much been one transfer after another. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought when they picked up Shea Patterson, I thought that was a pretty good pickup, especially with who they had at the time. And he obviously didn't pan out the way that I was expecting, and I think a lot of people were expecting. But I mean, it'll be nice to see who they're going to go with, and maybe if they go with a younger guy, can this be a guy that could be the quarterback here for the next 3 seasons? I mean, that would be something. We haven't seen any consistency with that, in quite a while.
Exactly. And then, of course, Mel Tucker, he'll be as a matter of fact, they got a whole new staff. So Mel Tucker is the head coach, and then Jay Johnson is the offensive coordinator, then Scotty Hazelton, he's the defensive coordinator. So Michigan State, they're starting over from the Mark D'Antonio. I almost said Mike D'Antonio. It's Mark D'Antonio. So that's another team I'm really seeing, because Michigan State is not going to be the same team like Mark D'Antonio. I just want to see what this Michigan State team doing, because their first game will be Northwestern, and then their last game will be at Maryland. So I really do hope Mel Tucker does succeed, but it's just like, where is this Michigan State team is going? And then, of course, you had history of players that did want to play for Michigan State, but they said, no, we don't like Michigan State because of a situation that happened with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a different landscape all around, and a lot of these teams aren't going to be able to, there's going to be no out of conference teams. So, basically just like MLB, it's going to be, with conference only games. I mean, it's going to be something to, it's you lose one and that could be it for you, So it'll be definitely interesting to see, especially I still think, and I know you think the same thing, probably Ohio State's probably the best team in the conference right now. But funnier things have happened. I mean, you hate to say it, but I'm more interested to see if they're actually going to play this year, to be honest with you. I mean, here we're coming up on August, and you're not really hearing too much in anything football-wise, NCAA or NFL. So, and what would it look like if they did move it to the spring? I mean, that would be kind of interesting too. So, it's one of those things that all these, they have to think about their the players and the staff and the people that are around them. So it's going to be one of those things where, it's probably going to have to be taken day by day until we can get a grip on the COVID-19.
All right, and then I look at Alabama's schedule. So their first game will be September the 12th. So that'll be like their only not only, but it's like one of the couple of games that they're going to play outside their conference. So they won't be playing until September the 12th. So I have teams like Ohio State winning the Big Ten, Clemson, of course, they're going to win the ACC, and then third I have I have Oregon. I have Oregon winning the Pac-12, even though nobody don't watch the Pac-12 unless USC or Stanford or something like that. So that's the weird thing here in the East Coast. Most people don't even watch the Pac-12 like that.
I just think it's a time. It's kind of a time the difference thing. We're a lot of times by the time those games start, we've already had a full day's ride of games. Because I know when I was staying out on the West Coast, on a Sunday, you're getting NFL football at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
So it's 9 o'clock. So I mean that's not a bad thing. Because I'm a football junkie, so for me that was great. But I mean it's just one of those things. I think Oregon's a great team, and they're going to be the team to beat this year in the Pac-12. I do agree with you on that. And like I said, I mean it's just going to be different this year. I think a lot of it's definitely going to be one of those things where you just hope and pray that they can get through the season.
Exactly. So last night, as I was saying, I was at downtown Detroit because I gave out my business cards and stuff like that. Thank you so much. Thank you, God. I have a printer right now. So as I was saying earlier before, I was at Tin Roof in Detroit for their Tigers home opener, and of course they did lose to Kansas City, which I never thought they was going to be bad like this. So they won't be playing tonight at 7:10. So right now, both of these teams are 2-2 right now. So I do not like seeing a team lose, especially for a home opener. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, when they lost the first game of the season, I said, but I know it's just been kind of one of those weird things, obviously with spring training 2.0 and not starting until pretty much now, end of pretty much August to me, but I mean, it's but when you look at it, it's I think the Tigers, I like C.J. Cron. I think he really kind of came up for him those two games against the Reds. I'm really shocked that they went with Michael Fulmer last night, only because, a guy coming back from Tommy John, he's never gonna be elite that first year he comes back. Especially with it being such a short season. I mean, I know they were probably trying to work him out to see what he could do and stuff, but I think I would have just shelved him till next year and kind of, gave somebody else a shot at that spot. I know they just picked up Carson Fulmer, former number one draft pick in 2015 from the White Sox. He's a kind of a flamethrower and just hasn't really caught on as well with the White Sox, where the Tigers feel like Rick Anderson can do something with them. And there's another guy that really grew up all of his life being a Tiger fan. So, you always see those kind of stories where people come home and they kind of rejuvenate or hit their careers, kind of like Frank Tanana back in the 80s and stuff. But, hey, I'd like to see what will happen with that. But I was just really shocked that they they kind of went with Michael Fulmer. But in listening to the first inning and a half, he really kind of had some good stuff, and then it kind of tailed off there. So we'll see. I mean, that's going to be, that's their big question mark, is that pitching staff. I mean, Zimmerman's pretty much done, so that pretty much leaves everything up to Boyd, in my opinion, and he kind of got knocked around there in that first game. But, it's going to be the whole Tiger season will be up and down, up and down.
Right. Now, as I'm looking at the division right now, because like I said, like it's early right now. So right now, the Rays are leading in the American League East, the Twins in the Central, the Astros. Well, it's no surprise. Not only the Astros, but also the Athletics. They're both tied in the American League West. And as you know about the Athletics, they don't pay a lot of players. They still use that Moneyball system. So that shouldn't be a surprise. And then in the National
Right.
League, we were talking about the Marlins players getting the COVID. They're leading the National League East. The Cubs in the Central, and then the Padres, they're leading the National League West.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a team that's going to shock some people. I think I think you're going to see them kind of give the Dodgers a run for their money. I don't know if they could out. But like I said, in this 60-game season, I mean, here's the deal. I mean, anybody can win this, because all they got to do is go on a hot streak, and you're probably going to see a lot of teams that probably in a full 162-game season, probably wouldn't do as fair as well. I mean, because you think about it. I mean, how many teams have you seen that had a good first 60 games and ended up towards the bottom of the barrel by the end of when 162 came rolling around? So, I mean, this is kind of you could probably see a lot of teams that probably in a 162 game schedule probably wouldn't fare as well.
And then I also noticed during this baseball season, the short season, they're going to Fox is going to do Thursday night baseball. So that's and this is like network TV. So that's going to kind of give like a boost for baseball, because I remember like Thursday night baseball used to be on cable, but now they're going to put it. Well, because of the shortened season, they're going to put it on local TV. So that should give a boost for baseball.
Yeah, I think you're going to see I know we talked a few months ago prior to all this coming to a close. We talked about NBA ratings being down, but I'll be honest with you. I think now with the way we've been kind of been without any kind of real sports and even television, like newer shows, television, I think you're going to see a lot of high ratings, not only in the NBA but the MLB and hockey when it starts back up too. So, I think that you'll see definitely a ratings boost in all those sports.
And as a matter of fact, the NBA won't start till like Thursday. So by the time we do the show again on Thursday, the NBA season will be back in action. But this time they'll be in Florida, by the way. So they're gonna finish off their regular season, and then I know with the NHL, they're gonna once they get back going, they're gonna start with the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's gonna be weird, especially with the playoffs, and then it makes you wonder how their season, which kind of usually gets going in September, early October, how that's going to fare for them coming up into the next season coming up. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. It's almost kind of like, oh, do you really? I mean, you kind of want to see basketball, but it's kind of like it's been gone for so long, and it's like, are they going to pick up? Is it going to pick up where it was before? And it's just one of those things. But hey, I mean, like we were talking about the ratings. I think the ratings will be through the roof, because I just think there's not going to be a whole lot on TV that's going to be actually new that people are going to want to watch. So why not turn on a basketball game or a Major League Baseball game?
Right. And I know for a fact I know for a fact the NBA, by the time they get back, they're gonna of course do the games in prime time, especially ABC, in case, because
ABC and ESPN, because they're owned by Disney, I know for a fact they have been losing money since they haven't aired any sports. Because I remember like during the COVID, during the stay at home, they lost a lot of money and they had to end up doing like Sports Center like constantly, like every day.
Yeah, yeah. Like this whole COVID thing is just changed. Not only changed the landscape of everything that we do day to day, but it definitely changed the landscape of sports. And I'll be glad when it's over with. Just for the safety of the athletes and people in general. You hate to see what happened with the Marlins, and you hope that maybe everybody's all asymptomatic and they'll, because I was just thinking about this the other day. I mean, what happens, Shawn? It's like, what are they going to do? I mean, God forbid they start playing these games and some big star gets it, and
Right.
It may not go as well for him. I mean, it's like, then when do you really say enough's enough? We need to like buckle down and say, we need to cancel these sportings. It's not all about money, and it is what it is. I mean, because you see, I mean, we've all over the past few months have had to kind of rearrange our lives and the way we do things. I know I have, and it's just like, you got to do what you got to do, and to me, is it worth the somebody's health and let alone life, especially with this virus, because you don't know how it's going to affect certain people.
Exactly.
Some people it's just crazy like that.
And in my case, like since like during the stay home, like during the COVID, like, or I call it the common cold, like for me, like since I'm healthy, I'm more likely have a faster recovery because I am so healthy. And then like if you have history of bad health, you're more likely to get this COVID-19. So that's gonna also play that part in that.
That is true.
Exactly. And then I also, while we was talking, I was looking at the XFL because for those of you who don't know, they are in bankruptcy, and the bids they are due in bankruptcy court this week to buy the XFL. So that's another league I could see like could possibly make a comeback, not like next year, but like the year like 2022 or something like that. It could be like a new, different XFL football league. So as of right
Yeah,
now,
I mean, I agree with you. I honestly think that that was a league that I was sad to see, kind of fumble because of all this stuff. And I thought they really had some good ideas this time around. I think, if somebody were to buy it, and put it together, I think if they're more football minded than like a Vince McMahon, I think that they could definitely pick up where they left off and be good and be a good, spring football, to kind of get your taste buds ready for the fall.
and then the only thing I'm only concerned, whoever buys the XFL, please learn about the USFL because you don't want to like overplay players and overly expand. So that's my only issue for the XFL if a new owner buys that. So if I were
Right.
XFL, just focus on what you're doing, and if it's like, and then like expand like the next 3 years. Don't expand like every year, but just keep it simple. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because like I did watch the USFL documentary there, because there were some players that did want to play the NFL, but you had to stay in college for like 4 years, and then of course Herschel Walker did play, Bobby Airbeard, and you probably remember most of the players that played the USFL back when you were
Yeah, I mean, you had Jim Kelly, Steve Young. I mean, some top name guys that are Hall of Famers. Herschel Walker. I mean, yeah, it's that was a fun, exciting time with the Michigan Panthers.
Now, what was so different, in your opinion, what was so different that you saw with the USFL than the NFL when you were little?
Honestly, I don't think there was too much rule-wise that was different. with the USFL. I just think it was just I think football just had a great popularity, and, you know, it was a lot of big businessmen like Donald Trump and that put this league together. It wasn't just one guy. And, you know, I thought it brought up a lot of excitement. I think, especially, you know, seeing it in our backyard, you know, with the Michigan Panthers, in the 2 or 3 years that they were here, I thought they had a great fan base, and I just think their biggest thing for me wasn't. I think the quality of play was excellent because, you know, they were getting top name people right out of college, and I just feel like, you know, it was more of they wanted to expand more, and they tried to do things quickly. And then what really did them in was when they decided to go head-to-head with the NFL. So, I mean, they should have just stayed where they were at in the spring.
And that was one of Donald Trump's biggest mistakes in the whole career since he done this. That's probably one of the worst ideas he ever did. Yeah, and I think when you think about it, I think it's more of greed, and you hate to say that, but I mean, how else can you describe it? I mean, knowing that you have something like that. I mean, nobody's gonna take over the NFL. Exactly. In regards to like money, and I mean, it's just too much of a conglomerate right now, and sponsors as well.
Exactly.
Because no sponsor wants to sponsor like 2 football leagues in the fall. Like, I can't see that happening. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not going to take that chance because we got the NFL. And everybody knows if you go against the NFL in the fall, like, good luck with that. So just best luck. You better do it in the spring. Because he did
exactly.
Because he did say it himself. He said he thought he could move the league to the fall and put pressure in the NFL. It was like, you're not gonna get the same publicity as the NFL because you probably would have got ESPN only and then like local TV networks.
Exactly. And I think in a business standpoint, I mean, why even go up against a giant like that? I mean, you hate to see something up and come like that try to jump too soon. And I think, you know, you've seen it with the USFL, you've seen it with I think the XFL the first time around was just too corny, and I think that's why it didn't catch on. I really would have liked to have seen the other league, and it's escaping my mind that collapsed in the middle. I thought that league could have been a good minor league system for the NFL, but it just didn't happen, and that's unfortunate.
But they did play like real football, the America Alliance football. That was CBS, the NFL, and TNT. They broadcasted those games. But I did like the league, even though they didn't do no kickoffs or nothing like that. I did see some real football.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players from there were able to catch on with the NFL, and I think, you know, I think, you know, even when you look at the old World Football League or the European Football League that they had a few years ago, I think the reason why that probably didn't catch on as well is because, you know, Europe really doesn't see our way of football.
Exactly.
You know, they have rugby and they have soccer, you know, whereas, you know, this is just an American sport. I mean, it does well, I guess, in England when we have our games over there, but, you know, you got to worry about expansion, you know, I mean, and because, you know, you see even teams like in the MLB, I mean, you got Tampa Bay Rays who are thinking about moving out, and you know, so, you know, you see, and then the Marlins really aren't doing well, drawing well, and those were two of the last 2 teams that they, you know, were part of the expansion with the MLB, so I don't know, man. I mean, I just think, you know, there's a way to do things, and I think, you know, I hope to see another football league like the XFL, you know, rejuvenate. I thought it was going to be better the second time around, and I just think the whole COVID thing is, kind of killed it. But I was just, I don't know about you, but I was shocked to see how Vince McMahon just kind of like said, "I'm out of here."
Right. That
was shocking, especially with that being his baby. He sold a lot of wrestling stock to make sure that league was in. That league was going to be up and coming, and it ended up turning out for him just a mitigated disaster.
Right. And so as of right now, the XFL doesn't have a commissioner because Oliver Luck is suing Vince McMahon, as I'm hearing.
And I honestly think, Sean, I could be wrong, but from what I heard, it's all about Vince McMahon shutting the league down. I don't think it had anything to do with that these owners didn't want to play. I just think Vince, got in and out too quickly, and that was why.
And it was fully owned by Vince McMahon. The only difference was it was just GMs and head coaches.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, I did hear. Oh my goodness! Here's another dysfunctional franchise other than the Jets, the New York Knicks. Now, for some of you don't know about this, the Knicks hired Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau, who of course won an NBA championship with the Boston Celtics as an assistant coach, and of course he did coach with the Chicago Bulls. On the first season, they did win to the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. Of course, they lost. And then, of course, recently he was the coach of the Timberwolves. Now, when I look at this hire, I said to myself, like, okay, yes, he was an assistant coach with the Knicks. I get that. But, like, when you look at the franchise of the Knicks, because they have history of well-known coaches that have coached there and have not done well. So when I look at this hire, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is not really, like, a big splash because, like, you got to look up, like, the front office and the ownership of that franchise. It's like, I don't feel like this franchise and him are going to be, like, in the same, have the same idea, have the best interest for this franchise. So that's what my biggest concern for this hire. And I'm hearing, like, this more likely will be, like, a 5-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks have been in disarray for so long. It almost, to this point, they always kind of remind you of the Lions of the NBA. It's sad to say. It's sad to say it, but they just made so many, and it's shocking with it being such a big market team. And there's a lot of history there,
Especially Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody knows, like, when you're in Madison Square Garden, that's, like, really big. And I hate to say it, it's like the Nets are, like, number 1, and then the Knicks are, like, number 2. Because usually the older team be number 1, and then the youngest team be number 2. But in this case, it looks like the Nets are, like, number 1. Now they're in Brooklyn, and the Knicks are, like, number 2.
Yeah, I mean, and then, the Nets out and able to get Durant, and it'll be interesting to see how that all turns out next year.
And you know what also played a part in the I noticed since the Nets moved to Brooklyn, because they did play in New York before, back when they're in the NBA, they have been getting a lot of well-known people than they did in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't be a shock to you, because from what I heard, like, even though the Nets did had a winning season when they was in Jersey, it was a lot of traffic when you went to a Nets game, and they didn't have a nice attendance. So
right.
So that should be a shocking part. So wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you just shake your head. I mean, think about how many big name stars or players that they've had work through there over the 20-some years. Phil Jackson didn't work out. Isaiah Thomas didn't work out.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, just big name guys like that, and it's that always makes you wonder if it's an ownership issue.
And then another one, Donnie Walsh, who used to be the GM of the Patriots. That didn't work out. And then
Right.
Lenny Wilkins. That didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, you hope that one day they'll right the ship there. But I mean, hey, I mean, stranger things can happen. I mean, you talk about big name franchises or big market franchises like Clippers have kind of turned the corner there, so to speak, and maybe it's just going to have to be something like that. I mean, there's just one guy is just going to have to say, you know what, I'm going to play here, and he recruits a couple other guys. I mean, you think about it. But they've even with their draft picks, they've kind of bungled those too. So, it makes you wonder. You hate to say it, but I mean, even with the whole thing, going back to how ownership is. I mean, if you listen to Spike Lee, he says things have changed there too. Even with the way he can't even go in certain doors now, and it's just the whole thing is just in disarray, and it's sad to see.
Exactly. So we're gonna wrap it up right now because, like I said, this is like our first time back. So we're gonna get back like we was. So again, by the time we do Thursday show, it's gonna be like a Thursday night baseball, which will be on Fox. I can't wait to see that. And then, of course, you're going to have the NBA is going to be back, by the way. I'm going to be so glad that the NBA is back. Of course, you're going to watch TNT, ESPN, and ABC, and, of course, NBA TV, by the way. You can follow me on Twitter. That is Sports for Stewart. That is Sports, the number 4, Stewart, Stewart. And the same thing is with Twitter as well and Facebook as well. And where can my listeners find you, Scotty?
You find me at ScottyWilliams72 at Gmail.